Hello, folks. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of GSN Invest. In this episode, we'll be looking at the newspaper business, primarily Dainik Bhaskar and Dainik Jagran, both of which are leading newspaper businesses in North and Central India, as such, right? So, we've divided this episode into broadly three parts. In part one, we'll be looking at the Q1 results for these sorts of businesses and how they've done as such. In part two, we'll try to understand the working parts of a media or newspaper business and how to kind of analyze a business like this if you're looking at it from an investor point of view. And part three, we'll look at what sort of investors are attracted to businesses like these and what are some things that they need to keep in mind as such, right? So Q1 results, if you look at the numbers optically, they look very far apart, right? So the profitability number for the Dainik Bhaskar group has taken quite a hit, whereas if you look at the profit number for Dainik Jagran, you'll see a very sharp spike there. But that is effectively primarily driven by one-off events, right? So basically, the Dainik Bhaskar group had a good proportion of government-related revenue coming in Q1 of 25 due to the election year. As that kind of took a very sharp hit, that business took a hit, and as a result, the revenue came down and the profitability came down as well. Whereas with the Jagran business, a bulk of the spike that you see in their profitability is primarily other income driven, right? So the operating profits have actually kind of fallen a bit, right? So at the core, the performance of both of these have been relatively similar, you could say. Circulation was broadly flat for Dainik Bhaskar. There was a complete flat circulation. Dainik Jagran had a 1% growth. In terms of advertisement revenue, if you remove the government part of it, so the government part of it took a 40% hit for Dainik Bhaskar, but if you remove the government part of it, you had a mid-single digit sort of growth for the Dainik Bhaskar group. For the Dainik Jagran group, you had a 10% odd growth in ad revenues for the core newspaper business, right? So broadly similar in terms of operating kind of environments. What has also happened is that the newsprint prices have kind of come down a bit, but these players have not kind of taken. So what they've tried to do is increase the pages, etc., that are there in the newspaper, so that it increases the value proposition for the end customer. Right? You feel you have more pages, you are getting more material to read, etc. Plus, you also have a few pages for ads, etc. as well, right? So that is how they primarily dealt with that sort of environment. So broadly, core operating performance hasn't really been too far apart for these sorts of businesses. Broadly, flattish circulation growth, mid to high single digit sort of advertisement growth, right? Now, once that is done, let us try to look at the various parameters that you would want to look at whenever you are analyzing a newspaper business, right? And as we said, there are two major revenue bifurcations that these businesses will give you. One is your circulation growth, right? Circulation is basically you will distribute your newspapers to people, and for every newspaper, someone will pay you money to kind of get that newspaper, right? So that is your core circulation business, and then obviously in that newspaper you will put out ads, and the businesses who are putting out those ads will pay you for those ads as such, right? So that is the advertisement part of the business. Now, when you look at the profitability aspects, right, typically the way the news business runs is that you do not make a lot of money on circulation, right? So the circulation part of it is primarily to get newspapers in the hands of people, because obviously if you want to run a nationwide pan-India sort of newspaper and you want to do it cost effectively, right? Because you need to realize the average person in India is still very poor. So if you want a newspaper that a lot of people read and you want to have a very wide coverage, you will have to keep your newspaper price quite low, right? So the newspaper prices are around say 4 or 5 rupees or so, even in today's environment. And that is because you are not looking to make too much profit out of it, because that will effectively take a lot of your potential customers out of it, right? So the intent with circulation is always to maximize the number of users you can reach, not necessarily to maximize profits, right? And obviously, once you have built a good enough circulation, you can then utilize that to increase your advertisement revenue, right? Get advertisers to pay you more to access the circulation that you've built out, right? Now, the challenge that newspapers have been facing in India is the circulation growth hasn't been too impressive, right? It's been broadly flattish, grows kind of low single digit in some years, kind of declines in most years. At a aggregate level, you've not seen a very sharp improvement in circulation, right? And while it is important for us to realize that circulation is not a direct driver of profit, but circulation is the ultimate driver of profit, right? Because if you do not have circulation, your advertisement revenues, your good advertisers, your higher paying advertisers will not kind of join you. They'll rather go to some digital source or some other TV channel or some other kind of means that are available instead of going to the newspaper business, right? So as long as the circulation number suffers and the circulation number stays flat, the ability of your business to kind of grow quite fast will be severely hampered as such, right? And what we've seen is these guys have tried a variety of strategies, right from increasing the number of pages to kind of improving other kind of marketing programs, etc. But they haven't really been able to make a material difference in circulation growth, right? And as long as that stays, the core business kind of remains a dud sort of a business, right? Now, knowing how Q1 results have been, and from a long-term perspective, how given that circulation numbers have been flat, the business growth prospects do not kind of seem attractive. What sort of investors are attracted to a business like this, and what is their rationale, right? Because obviously some investors do still kind of consider businesses like these. So typically, the kind of investors who are attracted to newspaper sort of businesses are your deep value sort of investors, right? So they look at businesses at very dirt cheap sort of valuations, and even if growth is kind of missing there, simply because the business will churn out dividends, etc., they'll continue making money off that, right? And to their advantage, because of the kind of growth, etc., that they have, the markets value these businesses quite cheap, right? So you'll get typically a newspaper business at between 10 to 13 times trailing earnings, which is quite low given the broader Indian market valuations as such, right? Obviously, it is for a reason because growth, etc., is very low. But from pure valuation standpoint, you'll have very, very low valuations. Plus, because these businesses are kind of generating good, steady cash, there's always kind of accumulated cash on the books, right? So, if you look at, say, a business like Dainik Jagran, the business today has 1600 crores of cash on its books. It has a market cap of 1600 crores, I'm sorry, and 1000 crores plus of cash on its books, right? So, from an investor point of view, who's looking at it, they might see kind of potential value there, saying that even if you're getting good, steady operating income, and if you have a business which has 1000 crores plus on its balance sheet, there could be a deep value play sort of there, right? So that is the kind of investor sentiment primarily while looking at businesses like these. Typically, not looking at growth too much, but just betting on the kind of value the business has and the ability of that business to keep paying out dividends from the cash that it generates as such, right? Obviously, for investors like you and me, when you are investing in a market like India, which is a good growth market, where there are pockets where you are seeing kind of good growth, it probably doesn't make sense to get into such kind of deep value sorts of businesses. We have a growth at reasonable valuation sort of approach would probably be better in a Indian market context. But that being said, because there are such kind of anomalies that exist in the market, it helps to kind of track these sorts of businesses from time to time, so that just in case you have some sort of extreme undervaluation for businesses like these, at that point you might just kind of sweep in and look at the business, right? So that was a brief overview of the newspaper sort of market. We hope this session added value. If it did, please smash that like button so that more investors like you and who consume content like you are able to see our video and we grow well, right? Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.